Let's dive into a strange tale shared by Chang, who hails from Tianjin and was born in 1981. Chang has had a diverse career, having worked as a tour guide, a wedding master of ceremonies, and even running his own business. Currently, he serves as a regional manager for a renowned electromechanical equipment company. From a young age, Chang occasionally caught glimpses of things that ordinary people couldn't see. It wasn't something he experienced all the time. Usually, it happened when he was sick, feeling unwell, or extremely exhausted. For him, these instances were often accompanied by eyelid twitching. There is an old saying, "Left eye twitches for wealth, right eye twitches for disaster." But in some places, there's another version. Left eye twitches for wealth, right eye twitches for someone coming. You can't really tell if the person coming brings good or bad fortune. When Chang was a child, this happened a few times. Once while playing outside and sweating profusely, he felt a bit under the weather after running around. As he was heading home, he passed by a neighbor who was burning ancestor money for a deceased elder. It was probably the elder's anniversary or Memorial Day. As he walked by, his eyelids started twitching furiously. Reaching into the ashes to pick up the burnt paper, he turned his head and was terrified to see the neighbor's deceased elder squatting by the fire. Chang was so scared that he ran home. When he told his parents, they didn't believe him and scolded him for making up stories. Fortunately, these occurrences weren't very frequent and didn't have a significant impact on his life. After graduating from high school, Chang went to a local university. While still a student, he obtained his tour guide certification and started working at a well-known travel agency in Tianjin, leading tour groups. His strong work ethic, humorous speech, responsible and patient nature earned him the respect of his leaders and colleagues. Even though he was just in his early 20s, his clients also gave him high praise. The strange event happened in his third year as a tour guide. He remembers the date very clearly, July 13, 2001. It was the night when Beijing successfully bid for the Olympics. July 13, 2001 was a Friday. That night, Chang, who was in Hangzhou with a tour group, experienced something inexplicable in a hotel. This story begins on July 6, 2001, also a Friday. That noon, Chang was assigned by his travel agency's supervisor to take a train to Hangzhou for a business trip. His company was partnering with a local cultural tourism company in Hangzhou, and they were about to sign a contract. He was sent to make sure everything went smoothly. The workload for this trip wasn't heavy and it was quite comfortable. After finishing his tasks, he planned to rest in the hotel for a few days, and then, according to the schedule, lead a tour group to Hangzhou on July 13th with 2 other colleagues. All he had to do was ensure the tour went well. Chang was delighted with the assignment. The hotel he would stay at was booked by the partner company. He happily prepared everything he needed for the trip, including various documents and the tour task sheet. He had the documents stamped and then went to the finance department to get some cash in advance. Back then, it was common to get a travel allowance before a trip and then expense it. He packed the money and documents and went home to get his luggage. That night, he boarded the train from Tianjin to Hangzhou. In 2001, there were no high-speed trains or bullet trains. It was all green-painted slow trains. The journey from Tianjin to Hangzhou took over 20 hours. Fortunately, the travel agency had booked a sleeper berth for him, so he could lie down and rest. Chang set off on the green-painted train towards Hangzhou. Everything was fine until the afternoon of the next day when he was about to arrive in Hangzhou. He suddenly discovered that the bag he had been carrying close to his body, which contained the cash, had been slashed with a knife, leaving a long cut. When he realized this, he was stunned. All the cash in the bag, which included the travel allowance he had withdrawn from the company and some of his own money, was gone. He had been very careful during the trip, always keeping the bag close and checking it from time to time. He had no idea when the thief had struck. This was the first time he had encountered such a situation in his more than 2 years as a tour guide. Having led many groups and traveled extensively, his mind went blank and his blood pressure shot up. He could only quickly report the situation to the train conductor and then to the railway police. After a thorough investigation, it was confirmed that the thief had taken all the cash from Chang's bag and also stolen one of his bank cards. However, all his other documents, including his ID and the files, were still there. The problem was that he couldn't provide any clues about the thief. He didn't even know when the theft had occurred, let alone the thief's appearance, age, or any other details. The police checked around and found no abnormalities with the other passengers in his sleeper compartment, preliminarily concluding that they were not involved. After all the trouble, the train finally arrived at Hangzhou Station. Chang quickly went to the local police station and made a report. In the end, nothing came of it. Back then, there were no cameras on the green-painted trains. He walked out of the station and it was already past 5 in the afternoon. Penniless and in a strange city, Chang felt utterly helpless. He didn't know what to do or whom to turn to for help. He didn't dare to call the partner company for fear that they would think the travel agency had sent an unreliable person. After thinking for a long time and having no other options, he finally called a close friend in Tianjin. Chang said, "I'm in Hangzhou now. I've lost my wallet. I don't have a single cent on me." His friend was also very anxious upon hearing this and comforted him, saying, "Don't panic. Do you still have your ID card?" Chang replied, "Yes, I have my ID card." His friend said, "That's good. As long as you have your ID card, it's not a problem. I'll send you some money right away." Back then, more than 20 years ago, transferring money to another place was very troublesome. You had to go to the bank counter, but Chang's bank card had also been stolen. His friend said, "All right, I'll go to the post office near my home and send you the money by postal remittance. You have your ID card, right? For postal remittance, all you need is an ID card, a phone number, and an address." Chang said, Okay. He gave his friend the address of the hotel he was staying at in Hangzhou. His friend said, "All right, I'll hurry over. I don't want to miss the post office closing time." Chang waited anxiously. After a while, his friend called back. "I rushed as fast as I could and managed to send the money just before the post office closed. But the post office told me that Chang would have to wait until next Monday to collect the money, since tomorrow and the day after are weekends. The earliest you can get the money is next Monday. Trust me, I've sent the money." The post office said that as soon as the post office in your area opens on Monday morning, you can go and collect the money with your ID card. Do you have any money on you now? Can you make it until Monday? Chang knew his friend had done his best and was very touched. He didn't want his friend to worry. Chang said, "It's okay. I still have a little money on me. I can take the bus to the hotel. Once I get to the hotel, I'll explain the situation to the front desk. It should be fine. Thanks, brother. I'm really grateful. I would have been in big trouble without you." His friend said, "All right. Let's not talk about it. Just go and collect the money early Monday morning. Don't worry. You can get through these 2 days. There's no problem that can't be overcome." After hanging up the phone, Chang felt deflated. He didn't have a single cent, not even enough for the bus fare. What could he do? He had no choice but to carry his bag and drag his luggage, walking all the way to the hotel that the other company had booked for him. It was more than 10 kilometers away from the train station. He didn't know the way in Hangzhou and walked for several hours under the sweltering heat of July. He was anxious and thirsty. He didn't even have money to buy water. Finally, he made it to the hotel. He was drenched in sweat. He took out his ID card, checked in at the front desk, went straight to the room, drank all the free bottled water, took a hot shower, changed into clean clothes, and lay down on the bed. His stomach was growling with hunger. He searched his luggage but couldn't find food. Since the hotel room included a free breakfast, he had no choice but to endure until the next morning. He got by on the free breakfast for the next 2 days of the weekend. Finally, on Monday morning, as soon as the post office opened, Chang rushed in to collect the money. He successfully got the money and immediately sent a message to his friend. "I've got the money. I can't thank you enough. When I get back, I'll treat you to a big meal." He then went back to the hotel and had breakfast again, finally able to enjoy the free breakfast without worrying. At 10 in the morning, Chang, neatly dressed, took the car sent by the cooperating company to the signing ceremony site. The whole process went smoothly. The cooperating company had already arranged everything, so he didn't have to worry. After confirming everything, he called his company to report. 2 days later, several leaders from their travel agency arrived in Hangzhou and successfully signed the relevant agreements with the cooperating company. Cheng finally let out a sigh of relief. In the following days, he stayed in the hotel until the evening of the 13th. According to the previous arrangement, he rushed to Hangzhou Shaoxin Airport. The job had come and he had to pick up 3 tour groups, more than 130 tourists, and to colleagues from their travel agency, 1 female and 1 male. The female was named Yi, and the male was named Song. Yi was a very nice-natured and pretty girl from Tianjin, who had joined at the company at the same time as Cheng. They were very familiar with each other. Song was a few years older than Cheng, had been with the travel agency longer than them, and occasionally had a drink together. When the 2 colleagues saw Cheng, they asked, "Cheng, what's wrong? You don't seem to be in high spirits and look a bit distracted. Wasn't the signing process smooth? Are you feeling unwell or sick?" Cheng didn't dare to mention that he had been robbed and just made an excuse. "It's nothing. I'm just a bit tired these past few days. And it's so hot. I'm not feeling too comfortable. Let's get to work quickly." The more than 100 tourists were in a chaotic mess. They were afraid that someone would be left behind. So they quickly found their own group members and took attendance. Yi and Song's groups were quickly accounted for and gradually boarded the bus. And fortunately, Cheng's group was missing 3 people, a family of 3. No one knew where they had gone, and they couldn't get in touch with them. So he had to ask his 2 colleagues, "You guys go ahead and take the other tourists to the hotel to check in first. I'll stay at the airport and I'll definitely find the missing people." Cheng was very anxious. He kept calling the phone number left by the family, but it kept prompting that the phone was turned off. Then he went to the service counter and asked the staff to broadcast a message with a loudspeaker. After half a day, he finally found the family of 3. It turned out that they had gone to the restroom and got lost after coming out, unable to find the tour guide. The husband was the only one with a phone, but it had run out of battery, so they had completely lost contact with the group. The family of 3 was also very anxious. Fortunately, they heard the broadcast and found Cheng. Cheng paid out of his own pocket for a taxi and took the family of 3 to the hotel where they were staying. But the hotel he was heading to wasn't the one he had been staying in before. It was one that the travel agency had booked. By the time he got there and had arranged everything for the family and the other tourists, it was already past 10 in the evening. Exhausted, Cheng stayed in a room in the hotel's next building, a room in the back. This annex was quite rudimentary, with conditions much worse than the main building. It was mostly used as employee dormitories, office areas, rest areas, or storage. Sometimes during the peak tourist season, when the main building was full, these rooms would be given to budget tour groups, drivers, and tour guides. Chang had been staying in such rooms for the past few years and was used to it. He took the key and went to the back building. As soon as he entered, he saw that the conditions were indeed not great. The building was quite dark with only a few lights on at the front desk. An elderly security guard was sitting there reading a newspaper. The guard looked up at Chang as he entered, then went back to his newspaper. Chang saw that there was no elevator in the building, so he had to carry his luggage up the stairs. The building was really old, probably from the early 1980s. The steps were high, and it took him a lot of effort to get to the 5th floor. He found room 501, which was at the end of the hallway. Chang took a deep breath and knocked on the door 3 times, as was his habit. After waiting for about 10 seconds, he inserted the key into the door handle and turned it. The door opened and a gust of cool air mixed with a strong musty smell hit him, making him sneeze. It was July in Hangzhou, and it was usually very hot, but the cold air from the room made Chang feel a chill. At the same time, the smell in the cold air caused his right eyelid to start twitching furiously. His heart tightened. What the hell is going on? He thought. He didn't dare to close the door and pushed his luggage into the room. Chang turned on all the lights and saw that a few of them were broken. He checked the room carefully. It wasn't small and was actually a suite with a living room that had a small bar. There was no air conditioning, but the temperature inside was quite low. When he entered the bedroom, he was taken aback. The room had a large double bed with white sheets instead of 2 pillows. There was a long white double-sized pillow with a white pillowcase. The quilt was also a white double-sized one. To Chang's surprise, there were 4 single-sized military-style beds in the bedroom, all made up with white quilt sheets and pillowcases, combined with the white floor-length curtains. The room looked to Chang like a morgue in a funeral home. Chang didn't want to stay in this room at all. He immediately pushed his luggage out of the room, not even closing the door, and ran down the long corridor to the service desk on the other end of the 5th floor. When he got to the service desk, the staff member wasn't there. However, there was a door behind the desk, which seemed to be a break room. He knocked on the door loudly. The corridor was very quiet and his knocking made a lot of noise, especially since it was quite late. He felt a bit guilty about the noise, but no other doors opened during his knocking. He kept thinking that he was the only one staying on the 5th floor. As he was knocking, the door suddenly opened. He quickly took a step back. The door was only partially open and a girl's head poked out. She looked sleepy with messy hair. As if she had just woken up, she rubbed her eyes and looked at him. The girl asked him, "What do you want?" Chang said, "I'm sorry, but I want to change rooms. I was originally staying in room 501. Could you please give me a different room? I don't want to stay in 501 anymore." The girl, who looked pale with sparse, dry hair and no color in her face, slowly and deliberately told Chang, "They're all full. You can't change." Chang was puzzled and said, "If this floor is full, why is it so quiet? I feel like I'm the only one staying here on the 5th floor." The girl insisted that all the rooms were full and that she couldn't change his room. Chang then asked her, "Why are there 4 wire beds in the bedroom of room 501? The girl had no idea and said, "I'm new here. I don't know." Just at that moment, Chang's phone rang. He saw that it was his colleague Yi calling and quickly answered. Yi asked him, "Where are you staying?" Are you done with your work? If you're done, come over for a late night snack. Yi and Song had already ordered a bunch of snacks at a nearby stall and were calling Chang to join them. Chang later found out that Yi was also staying in the back building in room 401, right below his room. Song was staying in another hotel, not far from them. Knowing that Yi was in the same building, Chang felt a bit more at ease. The two colleagues urged him to hurry, saying, "Come on, we're all done. The dishes will get cold if you don't come soon." Chang told the staff member, "Forget it. If there's an empty room tomorrow, let me know and I'll change." He then told Yi on the phone, "All right, I'll drop off my stuff and find you guys." He hung up the phone and pushed his luggage back to his room. He felt his right eyelid keep twitching, and for no reason, he felt anxious in waves. When Chang reached the door of room 501, he suddenly turned his head and saw that the young waitress, who had just served him, was standing at the other end of the corridor, staring at him coldly. It gave him the creeps. By the time Chang entered room and put his luggage down, the waitress had disappeared. He didn't think much of it and quickly went downstairs to the snack stall to find Yi and Song. When he got there, he saw that it was really lively. The two had already ordered a bunch of barbecues and beers, and their faces were full of joy. Looking around, everyone seemed to be in high spirits, toasting each other and having a great time. Chang was puzzled and asked, "What's going on today? Is there some special event?" His colleagues looked at him with wide eyes, as if he were silly, and said, "Don't you know? The Olympic bid was successful." Chang had been so preoccupied with his own troubles these past few days that he had completely forgotten that today was the final moment of Beijing's Olympic bid. The successful bid was great news, and he was very excited. He immediately raised his glass and toasted with his two colleagues to celebrate. Their joy over the successful Olympic bid made them so happy that even strangers at other tables came over with their glasses to join in the celebration. "Let's drink to the prosperity of our motherland," they said, clinking glasses and drinking heartily. The entire snack stall was filled with the joy of the successful Olympic bid. Chang's previously tense mood was quickly dispelled and he enjoyed eating and chatting with his colleagues. The late-night snack lasted until the wee hours of the morning. Around 2:30, the streets were still bustling with people. Chang, feeling a bit tipsy from the alcohol, thought to himself, "I'll go back, take a shower, and then sleep. I won't think about all those messy things anymore." Song insisted on paying the bill. After they had their fill, the three of them got up and headed back. They first dropped Song off at his place. Then Chang and Yi went back to the next building together. After seeing Yi to room 401, Chang went upstairs to his own room. Probably because he had drank quite a bit, he didn't feel the cold as much when he entered the room. Looking at the 4-wire beds with white sheets in the bedroom, he didn't feel as anxious anymore, and his right eyelid had stopped twitching. He walked into the bathroom, turned on the shower and planned to quickly wash up and go to bed. But halfway through the shower, he suddenly heard voices and giggles outside the bathroom door. It startled him. The sound of the running water from the shower was quite loud, but he could hear the voices and laughter very clearly. They seemed to be right outside the bathroom door. Frightened, he quickly turned off the faucet and listened carefully. But as soon as the water stopped, it was completely quiet outside. He thought he might have been hallucinating due to the stress and frustration of the past few days. After listening again and confirming that there was no sound, he turned the water back on and continued showering. But as soon as the faucet was turned on, he heard the same voices and laughter again right outside the bathroom door. Scared, he quickly turned the water off again. The pattern repeated several times, and he started to panic. Feeling scared, he quickly dried himself off, wrapped a bath towel around him and came out. To his surprise, the light in the bedroom was off. He stood there, puzzled, trying to recall how he could have turned off the lights before going into the bathroom. He quickly went over and turned on the bedroom light again. The light came back on, but it seemed much dimmer than before. His mind was in turmoil, but he didn't want to think too much about it. Forget it. I'll just go to sleep. I must be drunk. I have work tomorrow. I must have remembered wrong, he thought. Before going to bed, he turned on the TV in the living room, hoping the noise would make him feel a bit more at ease. He then turned on all the lights in the room and got into bed. He covered himself with the blanket and soon fell asleep. He didn't know how long he had been asleep when he was suddenly woken up by a noise. What was it? It was the creaking sound of the bathroom door handle being turned. Since he was already a bit nervous, this sound startled him. He immediately sat up. As he sat up and opened his eyes, he realized that the bedroom was very dark. For some reason, the lights were off again, but the bathroom light was on and he could see that the bathroom door was slowly, inch by inch opening by itself. He sat on the bed, trying to reassure himself that the door hinges were just old and loose, and the wind might have blown the door open. As he was about to get up and close the bathroom door before he could move, he saw the half-open door slowly close by itself, as if an invisible person had just come out of the bathroom and casually closed the door behind them. He panicked because there were no windows in the bathroom, and the bedroom windows were double-glazed. He had checked them when he came in, and they were tightly shut. At that moment, he suddenly noticed that the pillow he was lying on, the long double-sized pillow, had a depression on the other side. Not only that, but the right half of the bed he was sleeping on, including the quilt and mattress, also had a round indentation, as if the invisible person who had come out of the bathroom was now lying next to him. And that wasn't the most terrifying part. At the same time, the 4 empty wire beds in the bedroom also exhibited the same condition, with creaking sounds. It seemed as if something invisible had lain down on each bed and was constantly tossing and turning. Chang, with the help of the bathroom light, could see that the white sheets on the military-style beds had developed noticeable wrinkles. He was terrified. He pinched his arm hard, and the pain confirmed that he wasn't dreaming. At that moment, his mind was filled with only one thought. He had to get out of the room immediately. But suddenly, he realized that he couldn't move his lower body. It felt as if everything below his waist had lost sensation and was completely numb. He was sitting on the bed with his upper body still functional, but his lower body was like that of a person with hemiplegia. He was on the verge of a breakdown, shouting and screaming, not even knowing what he was saying. He hoped that his hysterical cries would be heard by someone, even if he woke someone up in the middle of the night. And they came banging on his door, kicking it open and rescuing him from this eerie predicament. Meanwhile, his hands frantically felt around for his phone. He couldn't think of anything else and remember where he had put it. He desperately wanted to find his phone and call Yi for help. Just at this critical moment, he suddenly heard the ringing of his phone. With the ringing, Chang felt as if he was bounced off the bed. In the process, he didn't pay attention and ended up sitting on the floor. The pain was intense, but the pain made his lower body regain sensation. Chang endured the pain and crawled to the bedside table, grabbed his phone and saw that it was Yi from room 401 calling. He answered the phone without waiting for Yi to speak and shouted into the phone, "Yi, there's something in my room. I'm going to your room. There's something in my room." Yi, on the other end of the line, was also scared. She said, "What happened? What's wrong, Chang?" Yi, who lived downstairs, was woken up in the middle of the night by Chang's screams. In her drowsy state, She realized that it was Cheng shouting upstairs, so she quickly called him. This phone call saved Cheng. At this point, Cheng didn't have time to say much on the phone. He hastily got dressed, not even bothering to pack his luggage. He grabbed his phone, put on his slippers, and ran out of the room, heading straight for the 4th floor. Yi had already opened the door and let Cheng in. Cheng was in a terrible state. It was the middle of the night, and Cheng sat in Yi's room trembling all over. No matter how many Yi asked him questions, he couldn't form a complete sentence. It was obvious that he was truly terrified. Yi handed him a cigarette. "Let's have a smoke and calm down," she said. He took the cigarette, but his hands were shaking so badly that he couldn't light it. Yi helped him light it. Cheng took several quick puffs and ended up choking himself. Yi said, "What exactly happened? What scared you so much?" Yi had heard from Cheng's girlfriend saying that Cheng could occasionally see things when he was a child. So Yi was also very nervous. She knew that Cheng wouldn't make a fuss in the middle of the night for no reason. Cheng then told Yi the whole story. He said that he didn't see anything specific, but there was definitely something wrong with that room. First, the bathroom door opened and closed by itself. Then the bedroom light went out on its own. The indentations and noises on the 4 wire beds and the double-sized bed all proved that the room was not clean, and that there was definitely something there and not just one thing. After hearing this, Yi's face turned pale. She didn't know what to do. It was the middle of the night, and they didn't dare to leave the room. They could only stay inside, wide awake, too scared to sleep, and endured the night. When the sky began to lighten around 5 in the morning, the two of them finally mustered the courage to open the door. The hallway was very quiet. Despite Cheng's commotion in the middle of the night, there was no reaction from any room or any floor staff. It was best not to think too much about it. The two of them left room 401 and didn't dare to go up to the 5th floor. They thought about going to the 4th floor first and talking to the staff there. However, they found that the service desk on the 4th floor was unmanned. They went down to the 3rd floor and found that the service desk there was also empty. The 2nd floor was the same. It seemed like they were the only two people in the building. Finally, when they reached the 1st floor, they saw a middle-aged woman in her 50s, who was a service staff member, and the security guard who had been reading the newspaper downstairs earlier. The two of them were chatting. Cheng immediately asked them, "Why are there no staff on the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th floors?" Then, in a rather incoherent manner, Cheng recounted the strange experiences he had had the night before to the woman and the security guard. He insisted that he had to change rooms. "The young girl at the service desk on the 5th floor told me that all the rooms were full and I couldn't change. I absolutely will not stay in room 501, he said. After listening to him, the two of them exchanged puzzled looks and remained silent for a while. Finally, the service staff woman spoke up. "Sir, please don't worry. You must be mistaken. I've been working here for almost 2 years, and there has never been a service staff member on the 5th floor. The room behind the service desk on the 5th floor that you mentioned, which you called a restroom. It's impossible for anyone to sleep there." Cheng became agitated upon hearing this. He had already been in a terrible state after the terrifying night, and now he was on the verge of losing his temper. He shouted, "This is ridiculous. How could I be mistaken? It was in the restroom on the 5th floor that the girl told me the rooms were all full, and that I couldn't change. If she's not your staff, then why would she be sleeping in that room?" The security guard quickly tried to calm him down. "Sir, please don't get upset. Yesterday, there was only this woman working as a service staff member in this building. And then there were the two of us. because the entire annex building only had you and the lady in room 401 as guests. What do you mean just the two of us? The girl on the 5th floor clearly said all the rooms were full and refused to let me change rooms. Chang trailed off as he suddenly remembered something and shuddered involuntarily. He recalled that the girl had said all the rooms were full, but she hadn't specified that they were all occupied by people. His hair stood on end. But then he thought again that it might just be the staff trying to shirk responsibility and not let him change rooms. At Chang's strong insistence, the security guard and the service staff woman carrying the key took him and Yi to the service desk on the 5th floor. The service desk was empty. However, when the door to the restroom behind the service desk was opened, Chang was completely stunned. He saw that the room behind the door was piled high with all sorts of mattresses, ladders, buckets, and other miscellaneous items. The room was completely full with things almost reaching the door, leaving no space for anyone to stand. In other words, even the thinnest person couldn't possibly stand behind the door and open it from inside, as there was no room at all. Moreover, judging by the thick layer of dust in the room, it had been used as a storage space for quite some time, and it was definitely not a place where someone could sleep. Later, the security guard called the manager. Since Chang and Yi were tour guides leading more than 100 tourists in 3 tour groups, the manager did not take the matter lightly. Chang and Yi also demanded a solution. After listening to Chang's story, the manager did not believe it. The manager said, "Sir, don't worry. We have cameras on every floor of our building. I can show you the footage." Chang replied, "Sure, I'll tell you the time. You show me the footage. I want to see what the cameras captured." Everyone present was stunned as they watched the surveillance footage from the night before. It clearly showed Chang pushing his luggage along the corridor on the 5th floor and knocking on the door of the restroom behind the service desk. After knocking for a while, Chang took a few steps back and then the door opened. No one came out. The footage showed Chang talking to the open door, or rather to the air, for a while, then answering a phone call and then turning around and leaving. The camera facing the service desk on the 5th floor captured an even more eerie scene. A few moments later, the restroom door, which had been opened, slowly closed by itself without anyone touching it. The doorknob clearly turned downward by half a turn before slowly springing back into place. The manager was also clearly frightened. He swallowed hard and after a long pause said to Chang, "Sir, if what you're saying is true, I don't know how to explain it. Maybe you were just tired yesterday." This remark angered Chang again. "What do you mean? Are you saying I have mental problems?" The manager quickly backtracked. "No, I'm sorry. I misspoke. Please don't misunderstand. It was improper wording on my part." The manager was stammering and incoherent, unable to provide a reasonable explanation. The content of the video was simply too incredible to believe. In the end, the manager apologized profusely, provided a room for each of them in the main building, and waived the room charges. He kept apologizing to the two of them. Fortunately, the tour group's itinerary went smoothly in the following days. After leaving the annex building, Chang's right eyelid stopped twitching. The tour group's journey was successful and everyone returned to Tianjin safely. Only then did Chang let out a sigh of relief. Later, through friends in the local tourism industry in Hangzhou, Chang found out some information about the annex building. It was said that more than 3 years ago, a young female staff member in her 20s, apparently due to emotional problems, had swallowed a large amount of sleeping pills and committed suicide in the restroom on the 5th floor while on duty at night. She didn't survive. However, the authenticity of this information couldn't be entirely confirmed. It was also said that since then, The annex building had experienced a number of strange occurrences. There had been several instances where guests had strongly demanded to check out in the middle of the night, causing quite a commotion. Time flies. It has been 23 years since that incident. The colleagues who used to work together at the travel agency gradually lost touch. It's unknown how Yi and Sung are doing now, or whether they have had the chance to hear this story again.